Go.
All right, we're live and ready to start the meeting, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Pretty ambitious agenda, lots to cover, and I just wanted to ask if anybody has any time constraints, because this may go on for a while. Paul?
No, let's see where it goes. I usually give a couple of hours for these.
Okay. Rob, you okay?
No, I'm not feeling great right now, so I may bail before the end of your meeting.
Okay.
Sure. So just in that note, Mr. Chair, if Robert, unless you absolutely see something on here you need to be here for, take your time.
Okay, thanks, Paul. I appreciate that.
I don't see anything on here really, Robert, that you need to be there for unless you do.
Well, I went through it last night, and I do have a few questions for Bill. So.
Okay.
Okay, well, we'll take it as it goes, Rob, but I agree with Paul. If you're not feeling well, just depart from the meeting. So I'll call the meeting to order, and first thing is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion, Paul?
Sure.
Okay. And minutes from the 27th of 2020, a little while ago.
Mm-hmm.
Any corrections, change?
No, I'm good with them.
Any changes? Okay. So that's a motion?
Yes.
Okay. No business arising, no delegations, unfinished business. Bill, page 5.
Yep. Item E1, draft highway and traffic bylaw. Just note it's been sent to legal as per the minutes, and I've also added conservation officer due to additional requests from bylaw services.
I have a question on that, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
go ahead.
conservation officers are given their jurisdiction under the provincial government. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
And so we cannot supersede provincial regulations. So how can the MD of Bighorn give a conservation officer jurisdiction within the MD of Bighorn?
That's a question I could go back to bylaw on, or
Well, you could better go to legal on that one, because we cannot give COs jurisdiction on municipal property.
okay.
And if I read the letter correctly, or the memo correctly, it seems as if the COs are interested in writing tickets to OHVs, but if OHVs are on land that they have jurisdiction over, they don't need our permission, because it wouldn't be in our highway and traffic bylaw, because our highway and traffic bylaw does not apply to provincially owned land.
That's correct. Yeah, that's my understanding.
To the chair, Bill, just
Go ahead,
remove
Rob.
conservation officer from the definition.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be my preference too. Thank you.
Supplemental question to Bill. Bill, how long is it going to take to get through legal? Can we get this to council in October?
No, I think it would go November.
Okay.
So they've had this since our last meeting back in January, and they still haven't come up with it?
No, no, I haven't. I haven't sent it forward to them yet.
Oh, okay.
I have to compile all our edits and get it to them, and but Michael Sullivan, the legal counsel who's on the files, pretty good. But to get a turnaround in a week and a half for council package, I don't think we'll be able to accommodate that.
Okay, I'm gonna move on. Page 7.
Page 9,
Bylaw.
page 9, winter roads maintenance policy, item E2. We've actually had some time to do some stats here and come up with some costs for that single axle plow truck. So I'm just recommending that the proposed budget be revised to include an additional $5,500, just so we can do the second pass.
Is that our decision to make, or is this a recommendation to council?
Or to Finance and Economic Committee as we move forward with the budget.
I got it last.
So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I've got a question, Mr. Chair.
True.
So I have a question for Mr. Lucas. So I read through your report here, and thank you for taking the time to put together those things. So I'm not sure where anybody suggested they were supposed to provide more than one single axle truck, but they are required to provide a single axle truck. It's part
Yes.
of the contract.
That's correct.
And according to this, they cannot honor that contract 30% of the time. Am I reading this right?
Well, they're honoring the contract with the dedicated single axle plow truck, and they're supplementing it with the tandem.
30% of the time. They're
Yeah.
when I read this, it read as if they did not have a single axle truck available 30% of the time.
I don't know if that's completely true. Or it was heavy enough snowfall that they brought in the tandem as well to supplement.
Okay, all right, that part I'll accept.
So I think what we've got to look at is, in the long run, the next contract, if we want to, change the terms and the level of service even further.
Well, I just like them to meet the level of service that's in the contract right now. So I agree on putting it back out to tender, but it's a little late to do it for this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I have seen times when we did not have excessive snowfall, when there was no single axle in Exshaw, and you know that the tandem cannot make the corners in the hamlets. The only one that can make the corners in, I believe, is Deadman's, because it's to the new standards. The old ones are kind of atrociously built. But I have seen, when their tandem trucks are here, I have seen single axle trucks working in other jurisdictions not far away. So that's what caused me the concern. I guess if we, snow clearing is a very sensitive issue for a lot of people.
Oh, it is. It's a sensitive subject, yeah.
And every year we are chasing compliance with the contract. Every year.
So I think that's a discussion that we should have, and we should be prepared to budget a lot more in upcoming years.
I think we should be prepared to put it back out to tender again.
Yeah.
So if they can't meet the conditions of the contract, it's not up to us to give them an extra $5,000. It's up to them to get a single axle truck on the road to meet the conditions of the contract. I mean, in private sector, if that was me, and I showed up, I didn't show up 30% of the time, how long would I be working? So anyway, that's just my concern. I would say to forward this to Finance and Economic Development for consideration.
Mm-hmm.
And there I'm going to question whether or not we should take a different approach.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Because this is, year after year we go through this.
Yeah, and I think they're meeting, Paul, their obligation. They dedicated the single axle plow truck.
Where
So
is it?
I think it's the terms of reference, how we propose what we require. And also I think it's the change having Dead Man's Flats in the service area now, a little bit bigger area. So I think if I did retender this, I think that even the backup truck has to be single axle. I think it's something to be prepared about. That if whatever contractor, it's likely going to be substantially more expensive.
Okay, well, I don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah.
All right, when it says a dedicated single axle truck, it means to provide a single axle truck.
Yeah,
And 30% of the time they have not provided a single axle truck.
that's correct from our stats.
So-
Yeah.
Right, so let's talk
Where
about
is
it.
our,
Finance.
go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
Yeah, let's talk about it at finance, because I mean, it's obvious that we have conditions in here that are not being met for a substantial portion of the coverage time from saddle up to spring. So let's go. We don't make decisions here. I'm going to suggest that we forward this to Finance and Economic Development for their consideration.
Yep.
Okay, page 11.
My tea just arrived. I had to get mine delivered, Bill.
Nice. Yeah, it's item E3, lane snow clearing. So Mark has spent some time on the lanes. He thinks that he can bring, it's got to be done by smaller snow clearing equipment, and that he could do it within a 10-day, I think we said 10-day working day threshold. He target 3 inches of accumulation. So if you'd like to recommend to finance or to council that we're going that way, I think we can do it. A trial period is recommended because this would be new for us. And if we have to, snow removal might become an issue. So they got to push it out of the lane and pile it somewhere. Those piles are going to cause some issues too. So during that trial period, I just spoke to Mark this morning. We'd suggest allowance $1,000 per month for snow removal, additional to the budget.
So what's he thinking of doing? Just pushing the 1 ton down there?
Yeah.
So basically make a pass.
Yes.
What else does that 1 ton do with the plow on it when it snows?
They're pushing snow and cleaning up all the time after. That's what it does.
I see it out in this country as well. In the east side of the MD.
Yeah,
Well,
and then
traditionally, we did not plow laneways.
no, this is a new level service.
Well, what we're seeing now is that you've got satellite suites that access through the laneway. So I don't know if we need to have all of the, mind you, I look at every single one of these and they got access from the alleys to the houses that we never had before. Okay. Mr. Chair, what was it, Bill, you wanted to do with it?
I'd say probably should just go to Finance and Economic Committee as well, and maybe we recommend a 3-month trial period, and then $3,000 additional snow removal budget for it.
I like the suggestion of refer to finance, recommending a 3-month trial period.
Yeah, this is new. This certainly should go to finance.
Well, I get it.
A question, if the access is to these suites is through a laneway, where would the parking be for that
Usually in a
particular
garage.
suite?
Usually in a garage in the laneway.
Yeah, through the chair, Paul, it'll be in the, yeah, as Paul's pointed out, it's either in the garage or they've got a pad in their backyard off the lane.
Yeah, every single one of them, because they weren't allowed to have them unless they had on-site parking.
So is there, what you're saying is there's access to a garage from the laneway,
Or a parking
or is the
pad.
garage in the laneway?
For clarity, Mr. Chair, some of them have satellite suites that are over a garage, and that the entrance to the suite is from the laneway. There's no garages in the laneways, but they're accessed through the laneway. And I think this is one of the unintended consequences of, allowing for addition to the housing inventory, and then realizing that now we have some access issues, fire and emergency vehicle issues. Because the only way to access some of these is through the laneway, and if you have an emergency, can you get an ambulance up there? That's what's in my head.
Well, that's the interesting point, Paul. I guess we should look at that a little closer when we get applications through MPC.
Yeah, I think access is a bit of, well, where I am with this right now, I think Bill made a really good suggestion, is that we refer it to finance with the recommendation that it be done for the 3-month trial period, and then we reevaluate it. And it may be that in the future, if you're applying for a satellite suite over a garage and a laneway, that one of the conditions be that you become responsible for your own snow clearing.
Yeah.
Through the chair,
Okay.
Bill, when you bring this to Finance and Ec, you might want to talk to the planners and pinpoint all of the properties which have suites. So it's very clear on that map with the laneways of where the access is.
Okay, I'll do that.
Is this peculiar to? It's actually on Harvey Heights, and it's not Deadman's.
No, and
No,
there's,
Deadman's doesn't have any laneways.
and Harvey Heights doesn't have any suites, supposedly.
Or Exshaw. How about Exshaw?
Oh,
Exshaw's
actually,
got lots of suites.
Pardon me?
Yeah, Harvey Heights has no suites. They're not allowed to by the land use bylaw, but Exshaw does have a requirement, and they can apply for a secondary or a resort accommodation suite.
And it's a permitted use.
Yes.
All right. Learning as we grow. I'll make the motion. 3-month trial. Recommend to finance for consideration and 3-month trial.
Thank you. Okay, Bill, carry on.
Just an update to the bridge rehab program is attached as new business item F1. The as presented, the 10-year plan is in the current draft budget for 2021. So just recommend it either goes to council or finance, and usually they receive it for information for budgeting and planning purposes.
Right. So anything to say about the plan itself?
No, I think it's consistent with what was proposed earlier, other than some of the projects are pushed back a year, some of the bigger projects. The province has put in some criteria for STIP funding, where structural elements, to qualify for STIP funding, structural elements on a bridge would have to meet a certain, be below a certain threshold. That way they're kind of getting, they're eliminating the non-critical structural bridge requests. So I think that will work to our advantage, actually. And the budget, wrong or right, we're assuming 75% STIP grant funding for the big projects. So really, that's all I can
Okay.
say.
Now we do, as I recall, we do have a reserve account for bridges now. Bridge rehab.
Yeah.
Good.
So
Okay.
I got a
Carry
question,
on.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Sure.
So Bill, in your, what you're recommending here are the highlighted ones. And with the new conditions for STIP, what you're saying in here is that the ones that you're recommending meet STIP, but they meet STIP because they are getting to a critical point. Is that fair to say?
That's right, yeah.
So this is not a, gee, I'd like to have a different color on the bridge. This is a, I really need to fix the bridge.
It is. That's exactly correct.
Okay, I got it. I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
And
I have a question to the chair.
further questions?
You've
Go
got
ahead.
here Eggshaw Bridge at the fire hall. We just built a brand new bridge, so why is it on this list?
Because it's our entire road network, or bridge network, I should say. But if you look at it in the 10-year plan, there is no money committed to it.
Okay, so we just leave it on there for 10 years, even though it's not required to be repaired.
Yeah.
Robert, the way I was looking at this a while ago is that this is really a running inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And so whether it's in excellent condition or very poor condition, it still makes the inventory. And then every year we go through it and have a look at them. And then the guys will say, okay, well, this one here probably needs to have another look. It's not saying that they need work. It's just, here's our list of bridges.
Okay, then on that vein, let's look at the Dead Man's Flats pedestrian bridge. I didn't believe that's a actual capital project. There's no bridge there, but correct me if I'm wrong.
No money there. There's a bridge there, isn't there?
I believe there's a bridge there, but there's no money budgeted for it in 10 years. That's the bridge.
Is that the yellow bridge?
No, I don't think it's yellow. It would be behind near the EMR. Just let me get a map and get my bearings straight. No, that's not going to help me. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that bridge is still there, near the Bow River.
There's a little yellow bridge that actually survived the flood.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Down by the mailboxes.
Yeah, a little further than that, because the Dead Man's Flats Community Association has been asking for a pedestrian bridge.
Yeah, so that's the one. If it's yellow or not, by the mailboxes would be a good analogy. That part of our existing inventory, and it doesn't have any proposed work identified.
Okay, fair enough. Just want to make sure it wasn't the new one they were asking for.
No.
Are we going to
Bill, was this a plan? Go ahead, Rob.
No, I'm totally fine, Paul. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Bill, was this based on the report that we had the structural engineer do, who assessed all the bridge?
Yeah.
That remember I think must have been January.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. So we're not just taking a stab in the dark. This is a professional assessment.
Yeah. It's the same. We've been using the same company for bridge inspections, and they did those the other assessments. So we could start looking at how we rehabilitate the bridges and look at those costs. So it's basically the same program we've been running with for 5 years. We just modify it as the plan changes and update it.
Okay. Thank you.
I got a question. So,
Shoot.
Robert, on the question about the Dead Man's Flats community looking for another bridge, and there was some discussion about repurposing one of the bridges from Exhaw Creek over to Dead Man's. Whatever happened with that conversation?
It didn't go anywhere because they have ended up focusing on their recreation facilities.
Okay. So it was being driven by the community association, not by the MD.
Not by the MD, no.
Okay. So what are you looking for here, Bill?
Bill, you're doing a good job. Carry on.
I just say present it to Finance and Acker Council for information
Sure.
for budgeting.
Sure. F1. I'll move it, Mr. Chair.
Okay. We're going to go on to roads inspection and maintenance policy, Bill.
You bet. That's item F2 on the agenda. Please find attached a proposed, I'll call it a rewrite of a policy. It was prepared by legal counsel. There is a closed session item H1 related to this. So some of the discussion could be part of the closed session if it's pertinent. So the draft policy as presented would actually update our existing road, the visual inspections policy with parts from T16 that we previously discussed at the Streets and Roads Committee. But legal has gone through and rewritten it with legalese and with it. So there's two issues right now with implementing the policy. Right now there's a clause 12 that says signage be installed. She'd like the Streets and Roads Committee's suggestion to do that. We don't have it on all of our secondary roads, which we loosely refer to as unmaintained roads or even uncontrolled roads sometimes, but so that would be difficult for me to install right away. We'd have to look at it and Mark would need some time to install the signs. And then she also liked the idea of having the map of the primary and secondary roads in a draft, and it's a very loose draft. It hasn't been studied. It defines the road network under our direction, control, and management. And some work is done on that. Some further work is needed on that to distinguish which of these roads, of the secondary roads, should be considered actually undeveloped road allowances. So I think there's a little more discussion on that we have to do, and it's a complicated discussion. And we do have a budget that we could use for that. And that's the capacity master plan.
What was the what drove this rewrite of the inspection policy, or if we didn't have one current, what drove the requirement for developing this policy?
Well, actually, the driver was the review of T16 policy, T16, the roads development policy. And we've been talking about that policy and issues with that policy for some time. And we put wording in that policy and redefined the network as part of that policy rewrite. And just legal counsel believed that that would fit better this component with the roads inspection policy. And she also had some issues just with that. So I can discuss that as part of H1, the legal concerns, if need be.
Question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, so I recall this is going to be our at least third, possibly fourth go around with our schedule of roads.
Mm-hmm.
And every time our lawyers do quite well off of rewriting and changing it. You know, and so the original driver was a court case in Saskatchewan where somebody went off the road and the driver died, the passenger became a quadriplegic. It got into the condition of roads, how the roads were inventoried, what was maintained, the signage, and all of those things. And then we had a schedule that we drew up were municipal standard roads. I believe that, Bill, is that the term that we currently use?
Well, I've heard people use it. I don't know the exact application sometime, what's meant by it.
I guess it's what's the difference between a goat path and a four-wheel drive trail and an MD maintained road. So I think what we did was we had a list of roads that are not MD maintained, although some people would like us to maintain them, and then we had to use appropriate signage that our lawyers recommended to put on those signs to ensure that travelers were aware that it was not an MD maintained road, a municipally maintained road. Is that how we got there?
Well, I've been with the MD for about 9 years, and I haven't. We have gone through a legal review, and this is the final result of that process. And we haven't. This is to finalize that process. Finalize and formalize it so it's clear for everyone, for council, for staff, and for our ratepayers.
Okay. Because we've only built one new road. We've only built one new road. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since I've been a councillor, and that's almost 20 years.
Yeah.
But we keep having to go back and write and have the lawyers write up new stuff for existing roads that we have, even though those roads haven't changed. So I think what I'm concerned about here is that we're doing a lot of legal rewriting. And we're having trouble justifying it.
Well, I've expressed a lot of concerns about the interpretation and the clarity of policy T16, and I've heard other people on the committee reiterate that. So I think we have to finalize our position on that and move forward and put some clarity there.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair.
Okay, a question. Go ahead, Rob.
Bill, so on page 23, on your second paragraph, you say that the proposed policy incorporates components of the roads development policy T16 and visual inspections policy T14. So what we have is a new T14 policy, which is called road inspections and maintenance policy. Does T16 still exist, or is it going to be removed?
It's going to be removed, and that is discussed on agenda item F4, access, road dedication, and road upgrades policy.
So we're going to take away T16 then, so we're not going to have two conflicting documents?
Exactly, exactly.
So T16 will be rescinded.
Yes.
Okay,
So
thanks, Bill.
what they're suggesting is, sorry, I interrupted somebody.
You're the chair, you get to do that.
Bill, I like the discipline around these, what the proposed policy is, and my experience with this is that these type of things, these policies are, they're very good if you maintain the discipline. They're terrible if you don't maintain the discipline. Is there an oversight of the process prescribed? So somebody going to look at the inspection reports and be the overseer of that?
Right now, our
Is that you?
roads foreman. Well, our roads foreman oversees his workers' inspection reports. If that's something that we want to formalize that I do, we can. Mark Ashley does a great job managing the day-to-day maintenance of our roadways. So the roads foreman would be the overseer. And then when there's issues, he brings them to my attention, or if the public raises issues and we can't resolve it, usually we vet it up the ladder, often to the Streets and Roads Committee.
Okay. So are you suggesting that in this policy that the road foreman should be the overseer? And it should be in this policy?
Yeah, and I think it's worded that he's item 19 or schedule 19, upon completion of all road inspections, a road inspection report shall be approved by the
Oh, I
roads
see.
foreman.
Yes, there, that's right in front of me.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Good. Is this something that would go to council as a request for a motion, or I think it would if it changed in policy?
Well, the policy would definitely have to be approved by council. The question is it ready? Are we ready to do that? We can right now, have the policy approved by council and just have our developed road network without the secondary, with only the primary roads, the maintained roads and not the secondary roads. And then we could update that network map as we distinguish between the secondary roads and which actually shouldn't be considered being developed for vehicle traffic. The other item I just have to resolve with legal is what do I do with that one clause that we don't have all the signage in all those locations. So we could bring this forward to council for approval. if we address those issues.
So right now, the map you say here is not a final map.
No, it's not final.
And how are you defining a secondary road?
A secondary road, to be honest with you, is roads we don't maintain.
And so are you suggesting that we're going to increase the list of roads that we maintain?
No, not at all. What I'm
Okay.
suggesting is some of these secondary roads might be those GO trails you refer to and undeveloped. And might not be actually, they might have to be removed from this map.
And some of them are alleys.
Yeah.
Probably not ready to go to council yet, Mr. Chair?
So what I'd recommend, then I just inform, I don't know if it requires council approval. I'll just inform that we'll use the roads rural capacity master plan as a budget to review our secondary road network. If any of these roads identified on the drafter should actually be considered undeveloped.
Yeah.
Rob, do you have an
So.
opinion on this?
Oh, through the chair, I have a question. If we're talking about secondary roads and primary roads, should they not be included actually in this road inspection and maintenance policy? Just outright say if they're going to be maintained or not, which requires definitions in this policy.
That's completely defined in the policy right now.
Yeah, but it's not on your definitions, Bill.
Legal didn't think it needed to be, and it's defined by the, it's defined within the policy itself.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned with legal, actually.
So
We're never going to have full and complete liability coverage by any policy we have.
Yeah.
We just won't.
30% is the most you can expect according to the lawsuits that were used as examples.
So if you'd like a definition, I can do that, if that was the request.
I think we have to have them for both.
Okay.
And I think we should probably be using some already recognized definitions. I mean, I'm looking at some of these, so the ones that I know the most, right? I'm looking at Exshaw. And so these secondary roads are alleys. You know, I mean, to maintain one of those alleys, it's one thing to drop a blade on it so an ambulance or a fire truck can get down it.
Mm-hmm.
It's another thing to say it's an MD maintained road because some of these alleys cannot meet any municipal standard at all.
And that's why I'm recommending we do that extra little mapping review.
Okay. Maybe with some definitions and we can bring it back and we can go through it as time goes on.
Okay.
So I'll make the motion that we receive this particular report as information, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
That work for you, Bill?
Yeah, I'll if I can ask the Street and Roads Committee's opinion, is there a discussion that needs council approval to use the roads rural capacity master plan budget that's approved for it? It's kind of indicates something a little different.
We're not spending any money yet, are we?
What's that? We will. I'll bring in one of my engineers to quickly review these and say, hey, should it be developed or undeveloped?
So then you want to hire, so then we need a request for decision to spend money because we don't have one in front of us right now.
Actually, another form of the budget's been approved. I'm recommending to use that approved budget.
So you already have budget someplace in there that's approved for this type of work?
Similar, but not exactly. Why don't I just bring it forward to council just to have that clarity?
And what is the ask going to be? What are we asking council to approve?
Just to approve our traffic engineer to review the secondary roads, to review the secondary road network and undeveloped road network using the approved budget for the roads rural capacity master plan.
That's going to be a fairly expensive piece of work.
I'm not sure it will be.
Well,
I think we could do it within that budget.
how's he going to review it?
He'd drive through and then look at the number of residences on it and use his professional judgment. Other than that, it would have to be administrative judgment.
I'm fine with administrative judgment. You know, an engineering report that says, well, this road is not built to a municipal standard. Our own staff can say that.
Well, I'd argue that many of our roads aren't to a municipal standard. They were constructed to earlier standards.
But we're just talking about
so there is discretion, though. There's discretion if it's should be considered developed or undeveloped.
But we're just talking about the secondary roads right now, not the primary roads.
Not the prime. We're not looking at the primary at all.
Correct. And so you're telling me that our own staff cannot go and look at an alley and say that it's built to a municipal standard or it's not?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. I think that would be hard to ask anyone to make that judgment call, and I think it needs professional engineering judgment.
Okay, can you bring back a staff report then and tell us what the terms of reference in it and the scope of work and bring it back to this committee? Because the last thing I want to do is kickstart an engineering firm to go and inspect a whole bunch of goat trails throughout the MD of Bighorn. Because there's a whole bunch of little goat trails on that map. You know, you're paying someone a couple of dollars a kilometer and whatever their hourly rate is to do a lot of driving around a lot of dirt tracks. So if you bring it back to us so we can see it, I want to make sure the scope of work is not going to have this thing run away.
Could I bring that to council? Just I want to beat the snowfall.
Why are you trying to beat the snowfall?
Because we're getting into October here.
Sure. We don't remove the roads in October.
Yeah, but to do that visual inspection.
Okay, so this is the Streets and Roads Committee. I think that we should get to see the terms of reference for whatever it is you're going to want to do, because it's new to us.
Okay.
And if it gets done in the spring, it gets done in the spring. As a matter of fact, it should be in the 2021 budget anyway.
Yeah. Through the chair, Bill, how much money do you have for that master plan?
I think it's 20,000. I'll just pull up my budget.
And was that approved last year as a 2020 project?
It is, yeah.
So why don't you just take that budget, move it over to 22 and put a new line item in for this review and then bring it back to Streets and Roads.
That works for me. If we're moving money laterally, I'm fine.
So does that mean utilize this budget for this project, what I'm saying?
Well, it sounds to me like you've got a new project. If you don't, then you get rid of the master plan and then you reformat that monies to be used for this review of those secondary roads then.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to do.
Then that's a brand new project. So you ditch that master plan and say we've got a new plan for 2021. That's an easier sell for council that you're just reallocating monies and putting another project on hold for the time being.
Okay.
Okay, and so we'll see the terms of reference that goes to council to actually approve that?
Yes, Streets and Roads will see that in terms of reference.
Perfect. Perfect.
Well, actually, through the chair, Councillor Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't really need to see the terms of reference, but just approve the actual document. But you can see the terms of reference when Bill wants to do the actual work.
Yeah, so, I mean, in terms of reference for this committee is that we're an advisory committee to council.
Yes.
About streets and roads. This is about streets and roads. So for us to recommend it to council, we should probably actually read what it is first. Just saying. So you bring it back, Bill, to our next streets and roads, and you'll still get it in front of council in time for your 2021 budget.
Oh, fantastic.
I love reading stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We clear on that?
It's Linda.
You okay on that, Linda?
Can you guys hear me? It's Linda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to confirm, I have a motion from Councillor Ryan to receive the report as information. And then you kind of started making another one about the staff report. Is that one off the table now?
No, I would suggest just if we receive it as information, and then Bill's going to bring back another report to us at the next meeting. So it'll be a new piece of business.
Okay, is that a motion or no?
No, just we receive this one as information, and then Bill's going to bring a whole new piece of something different back at the next committee meeting.
Okay, thank you.
In other words, we're not providing him direction. We either receive it as information, or we recommend it to council. Bill has a new project. We don't make up projects. We just review what administration wants to bring forward to council. So he's going to bring something back, and then we'll try to process it through so we can get it into 2021 budget.
Thank you.
Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm good. Rob?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on. Bill.
Agenda item F3, industry access roads policy. This is a new policy, actually. It was prepared by legal counsel under an approved capital budget. And it established the protocols and guidelines for the development and reclamation of roads by industry. So that kind of summarizes it. It would, if industry needs a road, it would require council approval. And then additionally, there'd be a contract where they'd have to sign, and it'd be really the development agreement for that road or the road improvements. And additionally, we'd talk about reclamation and the process where oil company no longer needs a road that it built and would like to reclaim it or get the MD's
Oh my gosh.
support on the reclamation certificate. So that process, that would put council in quite a a position where they'd have approval of both the development of the road and the reclamation of the road.
Okay, Bill, there's a whole network of roads back in Ward 4 for oil company. Was that, were they developed under a policy of industrial roads?
I couldn't tell you how they were developed in the past. I suspect many of them were actually developed through the province before incorporation.
Okay, second question. There's a whole fair amount of what I call boilerplate on this under page 47 to 49, 51, 53.
It is a
where-
boilerplate agreement.
And did that come? What did that come out of, or where did that come from?
Legal prepared it in support of the
Okay.
policy.
Okay.
Through the chair, Bill, did legal review this policy already? I noticed there's no number for it.
Ashley, legal prepared it and we commented on it.
Yeah, I've gone through it, Bill, and I have a number of concerns, which I don't need to talk to you about at this meeting, but I can certainly talk to you offline.
Okay, for sure.
Question again, Bill, what was the driver behind this?
To have processes in place when oil company are looking for the MD's support for an oil reclamation certificate. When they no longer need these roads, the question's been asked at 2 locations, actually at a 3rd location. And there's some public expectations also that the oil company upgrade these roads to a modern standard when the oil company, even though they don't longer require the road.
Okay, I think I know where you're at on this, and that's fine with me. Paul, do you have any questions?
Just that I've been around long enough to recall some of the good things and bad things about these roads. And I think that the boilerplate and the legal preparing it is probably a combination of what industry wants and what the MD needs. And I think our last consideration should be upgrading them for public use when they were never intended for public use. So I'm happy to see it as it is. But Robert, you've got some issues with it. Do you want to take it back and maybe go through it a little bit, get some explanation so you're satisfied with it, and then it can come back here?
Yep, that's what I'd like to do.
I didn't see a lineup of D9s anywhere in the MD getting ready to build another road for oil exploration.
You may not for a long time.
Yeah, so what I'm getting at is I don't think this is a panic.
It's probably more of a panic with reclamation than the development of new.
Why, are they going to reclaim roads during freeze up?
Well, I don't mean an immediate panic as in today or tomorrow or next month, but I'm saying the oil industry in our area is probably thinking about old well sites predating incorporation no longer being needed or no longer being productive.
I'm afraid the oil industry in our part of the MD is the one guy down by the fence right now. Everybody else has gone south. But I'm happy to see it come back at a later date after Robert's concerns are addressed.
Robert, when you have that discussion, would you include the fact that these roads were built perhaps without any requirement for the same standard as this is pointing out for reclamation?
Oh, definitely. Lots of these roads predate the MD, and they're back in the ID days.
Right. Okay, I'm fine with that. So we'll bring it back whenever you're finish your deliberations, Bill, with Rob.
Yeah, you bet. That's correct.
Good, thank you. Been busy writing policies here. We're rewriting. Okay, we're on page 55, F4, I believe.
Page 55.
That's correct. It's the access road dedication road upgrades policy. So this would be the remainder of the policy of T16. Yeah. The draft format, don't worry about that. That's just the format legal uses it, and I put it into our template. But this I just wanted to run this draft through the Streets and Roads Committee and make sure we're going in the right direction. We did discuss in generality these changes. Many of these changes, I did a presentation, I think in November, December. But I think I just wanted to get your comments. It's still in draft review, and I still have to finalize the policy with planning and work with Rob in the fire department, because it does name them as well, the fire department.
Maybe a suggestion is that you do that first and then bring it back, rather than Streets and Roads comment on a fairly drafty draft.
Okay, I'm fine with that if everyone else.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Bill. Moving
So
on
how are you
to,
going to dispose of this? You need to dispose of this,
Pardon
Mr.
me?
Chair. It's on your agenda. So I'll just make the motion to refer it back to administration for more information.
Thank you. Okay. Now we're on to F5.
So this is Coyote Creek Road. We've talked about it probably once, twice, maybe 3 times a year since it has been re-oiled. The work was done under local improvement. I don't believe it ever lived up to the expectation of the residents who paid to oil the road. I think they were hoping for a paved road or a hard surfaced chip seal road. So right now the road was showing, I believe, and I'm sorry I don't have the exact date, I believe it was oiled 4 years ago. And in 2021 it's scheduled to be re-oiled, and we're spending $90,000 every 5 years to re-oil the road. And I don't think the economics make sense when we could pave it probably between 200 and 260,000, and then get a 25-year lifespan out of it. Another option would be to convert it back to gravel. That wouldn't be accepted by the residents. And we couldn't, the oil products, it's my understanding through the roads foreman that the oil products wouldn't be compatible with our calcium for that we use on our gravel roads. So there'd have to be some reconstruction to convert it back to gravel. Another option would be to re-oil it, go out for a design build almost, and have the MD stay out of it and say, hey, can industry do a cheaper, different job re-oiling it than the MD? But I really think it's at that point, the decision was made to oil it, and if, without going back into the history of it, maybe it's time to say, hey, it's paved roads isn't a level service that the MD provides to all rural areas, to all rural residents. But maybe just based on the economics of it, it's time to move on. And that, if that's the case, then I'd also continue to recommend that we revise the hard surface road management policy T22 to discontinue the use of oils.
Well, being the counselor in this ward, I can tell you that this has been an ongoing concern for the residents there, and and I drove it the other day, and it's definitely a gravel road now. What I noticed is that traveling even at a fairly moderate speed, there's a lot of chips fly up. So, Rob, do you have any comments on this? You have seen the correspondence.
Yep, I've looked at it, and if you pave it, yes, it's going to be expensive, but I think what Bill has put out there is that the more times we come back in and do the oiling, you're not going to get much of a payback doing that. You might be better just to pave it and be done with it, or you just say no, it's going to be a gravel road and that's going to be it. Put dust suppression on it, the calcium that Bill's got. But it's just, I think it's a question now that we have to start talking about paving some of those roads.
So a lot of rural municipalities are faced with the same problem, the same question. Everybody wants a paved driveway. They are converting a lot of their roads, once they deteriorate down to a certain point, back to gravel. Yes, people don't like it. When developers build subdivisions, they plead poverty to go to a lower standard road. And then after everybody moves in, they want the road paved. So this is not just this area. There's going to be a lot more. And in a time when we're going to be seeing our revenues dropping and transfers from higher level governments dropping, going out and paving roads is going to seem to be quite luxurious to everybody who's not on that paved road. So it is really going to be a hornet's nest. In terms of that road, according to a letter here from someone, they actually saw the grader, our contractor, destroy the road. Any truth to that?
Yes, there were complaints about the rutting and potholes.
Yes.
So when trying to address that, it was grading it, and it essentially converted the road back to gravel. So there is truth to that.
Well, I'm seeing words like demolished and crime. So did our contractor actually go in there and damage that road?
Yes, the MD went in and graded the road.
Doesn't own a grader.
But the MD, we hired a contractor to address the potholing and rutting concerns. So there is truth to that.
So the contractor did damage the road? Is that what I'm hearing?
The contractor was asked to regrade the road, and I think the hope was that the road would have enough oil to compact a little bit better.
Okay. Let me try it one more time. Did the contractor damage the road?
The contractor damaged the road at the direction of the MD. The contractor was asked to regrade the road.
Okay, so we did it then.
Yes, we were trying to address complaints about the rutting and potholes. So the road wasn't living up to its 5-year anticipated lifespan.
So have we cored that road to find out if the road bed is actually even good enough to be paved?
I'd have to do that. There was one spot we did a test dig, and there were some organics on one spot. But just generally, it looks to be. Oh, sorry. So I'd suggest before we pave it that we would bring in a geotechnical and assess the structure.
I suggest before we consider paving it, that we go in there and find out if you can actually pave over that surface, because a lot of sins can get buried under 6 inches of gravel.
Yes, it could be a Corvell road all over again.
Yes, and sometimes the reason your road top is failing is because the base is no good and we didn't build the road to begin with, somebody else did. So I would be fine to see us under our current budgeting have someone go in there and bore a couple of holes in there and find out if that road bed is in fact any good.
Okay, so if this is all right with the Streets and Roads Committee, then I'll just inform council that we're going to do some testing of that road under our current pavement rehabilitation budget.
You can just go right ahead and do it, can't you? Did you ask council permission to send that grader down that road?
No, because that's really an operations maintenance. But I'm fine then if the Streets and Roads
It just speeds it up, that's all.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Trust me, I appreciate less bureaucracy and
Well, we're
process.
gonna, I mean, yeah, I mean, the idea is that we can get things that you're wanting to do done a little bit faster here. Instead of sending this into the realm of debate where we'll now have to consider a whole bunch of other things while this piece of work here just gets pushed to the side. So if it's got a good road bed, then you can go ahead and get someone to quote on paving it. And then you can ask council what they think.
Yeah.
I think that's a very good point, because the cart's before the horse a bit on this one, and I agree with Rob. This is not going to go away, and I'm looking for a final solution on this one. But I do have a question, and I don't know if it could be answered here. If a road was paved, does that would provide access to your own driveway? Does that increase the assessment value of your home and land? Should I answer that?
I believe the Director of Finance answered that question. I'm not sure the venue.
As I recall, that did come forward. Councillor Butters had asked about that question. I think it raised up maybe $10,000 to $30,000. That's what I recall.
So I participated in an assessment review board earlier last week, and there was some discussion about assessed values and access. And the two things that are considered to assess the value of a piece of property is the property by itself. Just what is that piece of property worth compared to other pieces of property, similar pieces of property. And the other one is the improvements on there. There's no box to check that says paved road or not paved road.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I guess that would be the owner with a market value if they're putting their house up for sale then. Not if the assessment.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So where we are is Bill. Are you okay with Rob with us doing the preliminary work to see if it could be paved before we get into the discussion about it being paved?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
And Bill, if you were going to just re-gravel it, you'd still want to make sure that sub base was actually practical. The last thing you want to do is keep throwing gravel on it if it's not going to be holding it up either at the angle or if you can get wet spots in there.
There's truth to that too. Yeah.
Then I think it's well within your operations budget to go and have a look at it.
Yeah, I agree with that, Robert. I think so because I have driven down that road a couple of times with that eye to it. And there are definitely spots in there that are soft and are heaving. And so whether it's gravel or asphalt, if the road is turning into one of those rolling docks on the water because the base is substandard, then that needs to be addressed no matter what you put on the surface.
Would I be correct to say, Bill, that you're making an assumption that paving would be feasible economically because of the life of the pavement, if that, assuming it had a good, your words, assuming it had a suitable base structure, that
Yes.
that would pass the economic test?
Yes, spending, I'm going to just round $100,000 every 5 years versus, I'm going to guess 200 to 260,000 every 25 years. I don't think I need to do much more analysis than that.
Okay.
So once you get your road bed samples, then you can ask for prices for asphalt and then compare it to what we're currently doing.
Yes, that's correct.
Because the difference is going to be between $200,000 and $1 million.
Oh, if it's got to be rebuilt?
Yeah, $1 million.
Actually, you're right. That would probably be a $1 million rebuild.
Right now,
Yeah.
the rule of thumb is $1 million a kilometer.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a 2-kilometer road.
You're telling.
But anyways, I can do that as a later exercise. But you're right. The bottom, I think, the gist to this discussion is it's substantially more expensive to reconstruct a road with a proper base than it is to overlay it.
And Bill,
Although, just a question on that. Thought we had a lot of success on Colville Road because of the innovative design there, the repaving, where they put
Yeah, we had some definite weak spots there. We just went with the, usually a typical overlay would be 50 mils on an existing paved road, and we increased it a little bit for Corville Road.
yeah, I would say probably increase it significantly because it really seems to be standing up well, and you can see the thickness of the pavement just on the side of the ditches. That it was substantial amount of asphalt went onto the top of that road. Anyway, regardless, I think we got direction from this committee which way to go.
oh, through the chair, there is one more item on Bill's memorandum. It's the very last sentence, and that's about policy G22.
Yeah, so my concern is right now we acknowledge these oil treatments are experimental, and I think we've learned that we haven't had, albeit it's one case, one road, we haven't had the success that we were hoping for in terms of cost. It's not, we don't see that cost economical. So my recommendation would be to actually stop the practice so someone else doesn't put us in this position. Legally, I don't know if someone proposed a local improvement to oil a road, if they petitioned it themselves, how that process would be, but I don't think it's a treatment we should be encouraging, because I think it's a precursor to the expectation to have the road paved.
I'm fine with that. Do we need a motion?
Well, through the chair, you might want to just direct Bill to bring the policy back with the red line changes to it for discussion purposes.
Sure, I'll make that motion. That makes sense.
Okay. Okay, we're on information now, Bill.
Yes.
G1.
Yeah, I'm looking, maybe this should have been F1 or F6. I apologize. Currently, the MD considers the Harvey Heights we refer to as the birdcage. That's a highway off-ramp into Harvey Heights. The MD's position is the birdcage and the surrounding, the terminus up the birdcage and the road around it is under the direction and control of Alberta Transportation. Alberta Transportation, I don't know if they have the authority to do so, but they're simply assigning that birdcage to the MD. So it's an issue we have to resolve. But the discussion has even become more prevalent and more concerning because development is proposed along the commercial strip in Harvey Heights. And Alberta Transportation wants improvements to the birdcage, which would be passed on to developers and future developers. So there's two discussions. The Alberta Transportation is assigning the intersection, or part of the intersection, to the MD. And I don't know many municipalities that operate highway off-ramps or part of highway off-ramps. And through the discussion, our engineers have expressed some concerns about the proposed layout. So we're kind of in a tough spot here because that off-ramp will affect future or currently proposed development. Is there any thought or discussion if we should just say no to Alberta Transportation, that we don't believe it is our off-ramp or part of the off-ramp, or should we just continue with the exercise with them where we are reviewing the engineering to that off-ramp? The other thing is, I didn't include any budget for a transportation master plan. And if we undertook one, then we could have a better understanding of how we allocate those costs or the total future upgrades to that birdcage. So I really need some good sound advice how to proceed with this discussion.
So I have a couple of questions, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Paul.
So this issue comes back and forth from time to time. And when the Trans-Canada Highway, there's upgrading work going on there, it comes up from time to time, and Alberta Transportation says they don't have it in their capital plan. My understanding is the 1A highway is still owned by Alberta Transportation.
That's correct, but this case it would be Highway 1.
So, but the 1A highway, the off-ramp that I'm looking at in gray here, that they're saying should be done to eliminate that crossover on the birdcage, is going from the Trans-Canada Highway to the 1A highway. Both of those highways are owned by Alberta Transportation.
Well, it actually goes from the Trans-Canada Highway 1 to Harvey Heights Road.
So Harvey Heights Road is not considered the 1A highway?
We call it Harvey Heights Road.
Is it considered the 1A highway?
I could not tell you if it's 1A. I think it falls under the Highway 1 plan.
Who pays to plow it?
We plow it. We plow straight through.
Okay.
But we don't plow the ramps, the off ramp itself.
Okay, so we plow straight through. All right. I'm just looking at some of the other overpasses that have been built since I've lived in the valley, and I don't require. It seems to me that Alberta Transportation were the ones that paid for the improvements, but I don't think it's their responsibility, but I'm not qualified to make that determination.
So I think what will happen is we'll continue the administration if other people don't have comments. We'll finish the review and discussion with Alberta Transportation and acknowledge that it might have to be that we might not accept responsibility for the portion of the intersection that council has to be of that position.
Yeah. Yeah, council is qualified to make that determination. The other option is also just remove that off ramp off the Highway 1 anyway. Completely.
That's a possibility that likely, and that could result from the discussion, or if the MD doesn't agree to take on the bird cage or the intersection, but that would likely make development a little more difficult as well, because it would be bringing traffic onto the interchange in the town of Canmore.
Yeah, but the town of Canmore does not own that interchange.
But they own a portion of the road west of the interchange to the MD's boundary.
Yeah, they did annex that from the MD, didn't they? That used to be the MD's.
Huh.
All right.
So I'll continue the discussion.
Bill, this might actually be an opportunity for legal or an engineering company to definitively say, is this in the right of way of Highway 1? And it's a responsibility for Alberta Transportation. Because what you got is Jerry Lau saying, no, it's not ours. I think maybe we need to do a little more investigation on that.
Yeah.
If you go down the road playing ball with them, even though you might put a proviso in there that we're not quite, it looks like we're accepting his email. And
yeah.
To me, I think you need something a hell of a lot more formal from Alberta Transportation than just an email from Jerry.
I'm happy with that. Follow the process.
Good point, Rob.
Don't accept responsibility for something unless it's clearly yours.
Bill, can I go back to Coyote Creek Road? And are you comfortable with going back to the people that have corresponded to you and tell them what direction that we've decided to go, or you've decided to go to with respect to Coyote Creek?
Yes, most certainly.
Thank you.
There's only 3 people that I have to contact.
Be careful with raising expectations, though.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Just say it's still under investigation and leave it at that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'll move G1, Mr. Chair, for information.
Thank you. So we're on F2 now.
G2. So this is just to inform the Streets and Roads Committee that in the early summer, when we had the issues in East Exshaw, I brought out a survey crew and an engineer to see if we could cut center swales in the lanes to improve drainage from the sump pumps. And the engineers came back, and we actually put a header in, pipe header in, so we didn't have to exercise this option. But that pipe header gets in the way, providing access to people's garage and whatnot. So it's probably likely not the best. It's not a permanent solution. So we undertook a survey and a preliminary design, and our engineers came back and said, well, it's not as simple as a center cut, which I think most people would be expecting. And to get the alleys to drain would require some work and fills on the sides. So I'm kind of at a stump. I'm stumped what to do with the alleys. The development is being proposed and investigated towards the east. And part of those discussion, I suspect that some answers will be provided. But right now, I don't know how much further I can go or propose without upsetting the neighborhood. Because I think some people wouldn't like those fills.
So, Bill, can you bring this back and provide us with the report, not just the cover letter to the report?
With the actual design?
Yeah.
Yeah. There isn't much. There's not much detail on those fills, but I'll show you what they provided.
Well, does it not have elevations on it?
Yeah, it has some, but it doesn't have any cross sections.
Sure. I think it's worth seeing. When you talk about drainage swales, people are out in the alleyways with shovels making drainage swales. So we do know they work. I've got a memo that says it will improve it. Mm-hmm. And I have a position from administration that, well, we could, but it may get some people unhappy. So maybe what we need to do is let's see the report.
Okay.
And then why don't we look at it in terms of informing the residents down there that this is the intention, and then gauge their acceptance of it, which will change as soon as you are done with it. Someone will change their mind, but nonetheless, at least there is some sort of public input.
Yeah, for sure. And I think people would be surprised, they'd expect a simple cut in the center without the fill. So I think
yeah, I know, right?
That in itself, there'd be a gap between expectations and what we'd be delivering. So I will bring that back to the
that'd be great.
Streets and Roads Committee.
All right, thank you. Because I'm looking at this right now, and I cannot make any kind of a decision. I want to see the report.
Okay.
All right. That's all I have, Mr. Chair, on that.
Through the chair, Bill, is it safe to say that McElhaney found that it's basically flat down there? There's not much grade.
Yes, it's very difficult.
My recollection is actually there are some places down there that are back grading. So, but I'd like to see I know they shot a lot of elevations, so I'd like to see the elevations, and that way maybe my eyes didn't deceive me, or maybe they did.
Okay.
Yeah, I just did.
So we receive this as information?
No, Mr. Chair, it's going to be a motion to refer back to administration to provide the full engineering report.
Okay. Okay, as far as the agenda that we have presented for the open meeting, I think this meeting is about to close. I don't have anything on my calendar that says a closed meeting, Rob. Are you gonna send an invitation?
Bill's already done that.
And yeah, so,
Okay.
and I have a question, Mr. Chair. We've asked for more information about this for the map, and I don't know if we would be discussing this with partial information rather than complete information.
I'm sorry, Paul, are you suggesting, are you talking about H1?
Yeah, I'm talking about deferring it to the next meeting because we're getting some more information, are we not, about this? As a part of a previous discussion?
It wouldn't be at the next meeting because the mapping would be proposed for 2021.
Okay, so I think this should be coming back with the mapping.
Okay.
Do you want to make a motion to that effect so that we're clear that
Sure, I
this
can, yeah.
is still
I'll move that H1 be postponed pending a revised roads map. That motion work for you, Robert?
I say roads, map, and policy.
Okay.
Back.
Yeah, so just don't bring back one. You got to bring back both, or don't bring back any. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Sure, that's fine for me. I'd just like to have all the information, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So then we're finished our meeting and we're ready to adjourn. Does anybody have any concerns or comments about adjourning?
I do not.
Rob, I just want to thank you for hanging in there.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Are you feeling better? Or?
Everybody.
Now it's time to go to bed.
Uh-oh.
Please, Rob. All right, buddy.
Well, good
Take
luck,
care.
Paul.
Okay, thank you.
Meeting's officially adjourned. Thank you.